The underwater camera is violently shaking. You hear the frantic, heavy breathing of a man completely terrified in the dark. His dive computer is screaming a high-pitched alarm, warning him that he is falling entirely too deep. But he isn't swimming up. He is sinking rapidly into an endless black abyss. The camera strapped to his head is capturing the exact moment he realizes he is going to drown. The blue hole in Dahab, Egypt looks like a perfect tropical paradise. From the safety of the rocky shore, it is a stunning, crystal-clear sinkhole. It is surrounded entirely by vibrant coral reefs and warm desert sun. But the local diving community has a completely different name for this water. They call it the diver's cemetery. The sinkhole drops vertically down into absolute darkness. At 52 meters below the surface, a massive underwater tunnel opens up in the rock. It is known as the Arch. It forms a natural bridge of stone connecting the dark sinkhole directly to the open ocean. Swimming through this tunnel is considered the ultimate prize for extreme divers. But the cavern is a lethal optical illusion. The sunlight filters through the ocean side, tricking your eyes entirely. It makes the tunnel look incredibly short and easy to cross. In reality, it is a massive, disorienting tunnel over 85 feet long. To survive it, you need highly specialized training. You need multiple tanks of custom mixed gases to breathe at that pressure, and you must operate with a highly disciplined. In April of 2000, Yuri Lipski stood right on the edge of the blue hole. He was a 22-year-old Russian diving instructor. He was deeply passionate about the water, highly athletic, and incredibly confident. But he was not a technical deep-sea diver. He had never safely executed a dive to the extreme depths of the Arch. Local guides explicitly warned him about the dangers of the sinkhole. They told him the cavern was completely unpredictable. Despite the severe warnings, Yuri decided to attempt the tunnel alone. He made a decision that absolutely defied basic diving physics. He strapped a heavy video camera to his diving helmet to document his triumph. Then he strapped a single tank of compressed air to his back. Taking a single air tank to 52 meters is not a sign of bravery. It is a mathematical death sentence. You simply cannot carry enough air to survive the depth and the time required. But Yuri stepped off the rocky ledge anyway. Breaking the surface, the camera records the beautiful shallow reef. The water, perfectly clear, flooded with bright sunlight. For the first 2 minutes, the footage remains entirely calm. You can hear the steady, rhythmic sound of his breathing regularly. He drops past 20, then 30 meters. He is sinking directly toward the cavern entrance. But his speed is a massive problem. He is dropping far too fast. In scuba diving, a rapid descent is highly dangerous. It doesn't give human biology time to adjust to the crushing pressure. By the time Yuri reaches 50 meters, he's dropping like a heavy stone. The bright sunlight begins to fade entirely from the lens. The beautiful blue water turns into a suffocating, heavy gray void. He is officially entering the entrance of the Arch, and the invisible killer waiting in the deep finally strikes. At extreme depths, the compressed air you breathe physically altered. It turns completely toxic human body. The immense water pressure forces nitrogen directly into your brain tissue. It triggers a terrifying psychological condition known as nitrogen narcosis. Professional divers call it the martini effect. It feels exactly like drinking a glass of hard alcohol on an empty stomach for every 10 meters descend. Your vision severely, your logical reasoning completely shuts down. By the time Yuri hits 60 meters, his brain is heavily intoxicated. The footage captures the exact second his mind breaks. The steady rhythm of his breathing suddenly spikes into absolute panic. He starts panting heavily, sucking massive amounts of air from his single tank. The camera swings wildly from side to side. He is no longer swimming toward the tunnel exit. He is spinning aimlessly in the void. He has completely lost his sense of up and down. The dive computer strapped to his wrist begins to blare a constant, high-pitched alarm. The piercing beep echoes loudly through the water. It is warning him that he has crossed the absolute limit of human survival. He needs to drop his heavy weight belt and swim toward the surface immediately. but his brain can no longer understand the alarm. He doesn't reach for his weights. He just keeps falling. Cases like this prove that extreme overconfidence is the most dangerous weapon on Earth. And if raw survival psychology is why you watch, subscribe to Evidence Zero, because what Yuri's camera films next is pure, documented nightmare. Yuri is heavily narcotized, tumbling through the water column. He is staring at his own dive but the numbers mean absolutely nothing. The alarm screams, but it sounds like pure white noise to a dying mind. Lenses angle downward. You can see the sandy floor of the sinkhole rapidly rushing up to meet him. He hits the bottom with a violent, heavy thud. The depth gauge registers an impossible, completely fatal number. He is 91 meters below the surface. That is nearly 300 feet deep on a single tank of recreational air. At this depth, the ocean is exerting over 9 atmospheres of pressure on his body. The pressure is actively crushing his lungs. The air in his tank is dangerously thick. Every single breath requires immense, exhausting physical effort. Oxygen itself becomes a highly toxic poison at this extreme depth. He is sitting entirely in the dark. The camera films his hands thrashing wildly in the sand. He kicks his fins, generating a thick, blinding underwater dust storm. He is trying desperately to inflate his buoyancy compensator. This vest acts as an inflatable balloon to safely lift divers back to the surface. All he has to do is press one simple button, but he makes a fatal, completely confused mistake. His brain is too poisoned by the nitrogen to operate his own gear. Instead of inflating the vest, the footage shows his hand repeatedly pressing the deflate valve. He's actively dumping what little air he has left. He is physically anchoring himself to the seafloor. Panic completely overrides his final moments of life. The heavy breathing turns into desperate, choking gasps. He reaches up to his face. He violently rips the breathing regulator entirely out of his own mouth. This is a highly documented, incredibly tragic drowning in. When a trapped diver feels like they cannot get enough air through the mouthpiece, their panicked brain demands they remove it. They try to breathe the water. The camera captures a sudden, massive rush of silver bubbles. The thrashing quickly slows, and then the movement completely stops. The frantic breathing is replaced by the eerie, quiet hum of the deep ocean. The camera settles softly into the shifting sand. It continues to record the empty blue void. Yuri Lipski. The next morning, his friends waiting on the shore realized he had never surfaced. Local authorities were immediately notified of a missing diver, but ordinary police rescue teams cannot go down to 91 meters. It requires a highly specialized, elite technical diver. They called a man named Tariq Omar. Tariq is a local legend in the town of Dahab. He is a master recovery diver who routinely risks his own life to pull bodies out of the blue hole. He knows the divers more intimately than anyone else. The tragedy carried a heavy, deeply personal irony for Tariq. Just one day prior, Tariq had met Yuri on the beach. He had explicitly warned the young Russian not to attempt the arch on a single tank. Yuri had simply smiled and ignored him. Now, Tariq had to go retrieve his corpse. He geared up with custom mixed gas tanks and slowly descended into the abyss. He dropped straight down, past the deceiving entrance of the arch. He navigated through the dark water all the way to the sandy floor. He found Yuri lying completely still in the dust. As he prepared to attach the heavy lift bags to bring the body up, Tariq noticed something attached to the helmet. It was the video camera. The red recording light was completely dark. The magnetic tape inside was entirely. Tariq carefully brought Yuri back to the surface. He handed the recovered camera directly to the Egyptian. The authorities, and later Yuri's grieving family, sat in a quiet room and pressed play. They expected to see a mechanical failure. They expected to watch an animal attack or a sudden equipment rupture. They needed a physical reason for the tragedy. Instead, they watched a healthy, confident young man swim directly into a psychological trap of his own making. They had to sit in silence and listen to the exact audio of his final choking breaths. They watched him rip the life-saving air source from his own lips. The footage was eventually released to the public. It became a viral, deeply haunting piece of diving safety training worldwide. Instructors play the tape for new students to show them exactly what nitrogen narcosis looks like. They use Yuri's death as the ultimate warning against underwater arrogance. But the blue hole does not care about warnings. It remains one of the deadliest dive sites on the entire planet. Dozens of memorial plaques are currently nailed to the rocky cliffs surrounding the water. They bear the names of over 200 divers who thought they could beat the cavern. Tarek Omar still lives in Dahab. He still gets the phone calls when someone fails to surface. He still swims down into the dark to bring them home. The water looks beautiful on the shore. The sunlight tricks the eye perfectly, but the camera recorded the truth. He dropped into the abyss. He filmed his own mind breaking in the dark, and the water simply kept rolling over the hole.